Alarms tore through the listening post before I even reached my station, and my hands were shaking before I understood why. My name is Vescor, and I was the duty officer that night at Chorum's Edge, a quiet outpost on the far rim of compact space. Nothing ever happened there. That was the point of the place. We watched empty stars and filed empty reports and waited for a shift change that never came fast enough. But that night, the board did not stay empty. A distress signal had gone out hours earlier from a merchant convoy near the Thrashing Belt, a stretch of space known for raiders who liked easy targets. The convoy's beacon was old, built with an ancient list of contacts buried deep inside its memory. Nobody had cleaned that list in 300 years. Somewhere in it was a single entry, forgotten by everyone, pointing at a small blue world called Earth. A world our old survey drones had once passed by and marked with 3 words: unconfirmed, use caution. The beacon reached for anyone. It found Earth. I did not think anything would come of it. Why would it? A message from a species nobody had spoken to in centuries, arriving across a gap that should have taken forever to cross. I went back to my drink and my paperwork. Then, 11 hours later, my screen filled with shapes that should not have existed yet. Ships, not 2 or 3. Dozens, appearing all at once out of nowhere, in a formation so tight that our system could not even give them a proper label. They looked nothing like compact ships. Compact ships were smooth, built to look calm and harmless at meetings. These new ships looked like someone had built a weapon first and only later remembered it needed wings. My supervisor, a sharp woman named Talia Bren, stood beside me without blinking. Her voice came out flat, the tone she used when she was trying very hard not to sound afraid. "Ves," she said, "tell me what I am looking at." I checked the old contact file with hands that would not stop trembling. "Human," I said. "Third planet of a star called Sol. Old records list them as unconfirmed." "They do not look unconfirmed," she said. She had a point. Within 90 seconds of arriving, one of the new ships opened a channel to us. 90 seconds. Standard rules said any strange fleet should watch quietly for 6 hours before making contact. These ships had barely finished stopping. A voice came through, calm and steady, translated with a slight delay while our system scrambled to understand a language it had never heard before. "This is Fleet Commander Daniel Hale of the Sol Coalition ship Horizon, responding to a distress call received at these coordinates. We have a lock on the signal. Report your status and the status of everyone nearby. We are moving in to help." There was no fear in that voice, no hesitation, no long list of questions about permission or paperwork, just one simple question that mattered more than anything else in that moment. "They think this is a rescue," I said. "It is a rescue," Talia answered slowly, working it out as she spoke. "They just do not know they were never actually invited." I opened the channel myself, since someone had to, and because I was young enough to feel curious instead of careful. "This is Chorum's Edge listening post," I said. "The distress signal was from a compact merchant convoy. There are no confirmed threats engaging them right now. The signal itself was old. It was not meant for you specifically." Silence followed, longer than before. I imagined a room full of people on that strange ship, looking at each other the same way Talia and I just had. "Copy that, Chorum's Edge," Commander Hale said finally. Still no anger in his voice, just something steady and practical. "Is anyone hurt out there?" "The convoy reported contact with raiders 11 hours ago," I told him. "We have had no update since." "Then we are already here," he said. "Might as well take a look." The fleet did not wait for permission. It did not wait for the 6 hours, or for the endless questions, or for the compact official who was, at that exact moment, 3 systems away and shouting into a comm unit trying to figure out what a fleet of unconfirmed, do-not-engage humans was doing inside our sensor range. The ships simply turned together and moved toward the Thrashing Belt at a speed that would have torn our own engines apart. I sat frozen, watching that formation shrink into the dark, and for the first time in my long, quiet career, I understood something no file or protocol had ever managed to explain. They had received the wrong call, on the wrong frequency, from a species that never meant to reach them at all, and they came anyway, moving as fast as their engines allowed because somewhere out there, someone might need help, and everything else could wait. 4 hours later, we found the convoy again. Battered but alive, drifting quietly, the raiders long gone, scattered by something the survivors only described as extremely fast and impossible to argue with. The compact official arrived soon after, furious about rules and borders and who had permission to be where. Nobody on that human fleet seemed to care much about any of it. I spoke with the convoy captain later, a tired man named Julian Marsh, who kept rubbing his eyes as if he still could not believe what had happened. Whoever they were, he said, if that old beacon ever goes off again, we should call them on purpose next time. That should have been the end of it. A strange story to tell at the next shift meeting, nothing more. But 3 days later, something happened that made the whole outpost go quiet in a very different way. A second signal arrived. Not from the convoy, not from any of us. It came from deep inside Raider territory, a place no compact ship dared enter without an armed escort 3 times its size. The signal was short, broken, and clearly not meant for outside ears. It had been picked up by accident, bouncing off an old relay station nobody had used in years. Within it was a single line repeated over and over, a location, a time, and the words, "They know we are here now, hurry." Talia looked at me across the room, her face pale. If the raiders knew they had been seen, they would move their base before anyone could act. And no compact fleet stationed nearby was fast enough to reach that location before they vanished, taking with them supplies stolen from a dozen small colonies, along with information that could put many other worlds at risk. There was only one fleet in the entire sector that had already proven it could move faster than anyone thought possible. I sent the message before Talia could tell me not to, opening a channel toward the direction the human fleet had gone. "Commander Hale, this is Chorum's Edge again. We have picked up an emergency signal from inside Raider territory. It was not meant for us to hear it. If it is accurate, there is a base preparing to move within hours. Along with hostages and stolen supplies. We do not have a ship close enough to reach it in time." The reply came almost immediately, as if he had been waiting by the comm the entire time. "Send coordinates," he said. "We are already turning." This time Talia did not hesitate before she looked at me and nodded. "Send them," she said, "all of them." I transmitted everything we had, every scrap of data our sensors had gathered from that broken signal. The human fleet adjusted course again, cutting across open space in a way that made our tracking system struggle to keep up. I watched their formation blaze forward, calm and steady, the same way it had moved toward the convoy days earlier. Hours passed in near silence at the outpost. Nobody spoke much. Even Talia, who normally filled quiet moments with sharp comments about paperwork, sat watching the screen without a word. Then the channel opened again. "This is Commander Hale," he said. "Location secured. All hostages recovered and safe. Stolen supplies accounted for. No injuries reported on our end." The whole room let out a breath I did not realize we had been holding. Later, once the reports were filed and the compact officials had finished arguing about jurisdiction once again, I asked Commander Hale a question that had been sitting in my mind since that very first night. "Why did you come?" I asked him. "Twice, for signals that were never meant for you." He paused before answering, and when he did, his voice carried none of the confusion I expected. "Because someone needed help," he said simply. "It did not matter who sent the call or whether it reached the right place first. If we can help, we go. That is all there is to it." I thought about that answer for a long time after our channel closed. I thought about 300 years of old records calling his species unconfirmed, cautious, unknown. I thought about how easily that old warning could have stopped us from ever answering back. I updated our files that night the same way I had after the first encounter. Species designation human, threat assessment unconfirmed. Response time immediate every single time without exception. Word of what happened spread quickly through nearby outposts. Some officials still complained about broken protocol and crossed borders. But out on the rim, among people who lived closest to danger, a new kind of quiet respect began to grow, one that no old file could properly describe. Months later, another old beacon somewhere in compact space picked up a distant signal, and without anyone telling it to, reached out toward that same small blue world once again. This time, nobody at Chorum's Edge called it a mistake. We simply watched and waited, already certain of what would happen next.